It's going to be a hard one today, and it's going to be hard to explain that. There actually really is no explaining it. It looks like they're non-competitive, and that is on the head coach. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not going to sit here and advocate for his firing. However, I mean, we have 14 weeks to go. It could be a really, really long season, or somewhere along the line they could turn it on. But
I don't want to hear about it.
It doesn't look that way. All right, Eddie, got to stop for 5 seconds, all right? Because if you're going to do that all day, damn long, I'm going to get I'll just walk out of the studio, and you can just keep running that over and over and over. You know, the point being is you got to be ready to go. You got to come out of the locker room and you got to be ready to fight. You got to be competitive. You know, when I was with the Jets in 1995, we were a terrible team. We were a terrible team. We were trying to be rebuilt. We had rebuilt offensive and defensive lines, rebuilt wide receiver core, rebuilt secondary. We were terrible. We just could not get out of our own way. We had bad coaching. We had bad game plans, and we knew we were bad. This team is not that bad. This team should be better than that. This team has a young quarterback that should be told to start throwing the ball down the field like every other freaking young quarterback in the NFL. It is so frustrating watching them offensively. Yesterday, with all the injuries that San Francisco suffered and the fact that they, too, have problems at wide receiver just like the Jets do, for them to come out and play the way they did, and they know this. I'm not saying anything that they don't already know or didn't, attest to yesterday after the game in the post-game press conferences. It's embarrassing. It is literally embarrassing that you would look that way after getting your ass kicked the week before in Buffalo. Okay, playoff team, Super Bowl team coming in. But with all of these injuries, and for a backup quarterback to play the entire second half, and for him to look better than your third-year quarterback, third overall draft pick quarterback, it really is. I mean, and now you're going to hear this word a lot, disgrace. Now, I will say if misery loves company, believe me, there's a lot of company out there in the NFL this morning for teams that looked like crap yesterday. And I'm not even going to get into your Vikings at this moment, but they have a $30 million quarterback that threw for less than 100 yards. You know, Stephon Diggs, their number one receiver for Buffalo, had more yards receiving than the Minnesota Vikings as a team yesterday. So it goes to show you that decisions that are made sometimes really come back to haunt you. And there are a number of those that are going on in the NFL these days. But there is no question in my mind that yesterday, if you want to sit here, I will put it on the coach. It is on the coach to get his team ready. It's on the coach to get his team ready to play a game from start to finish. And there are teams that are undergoing major transformations that are playing a hell of a lot better than the Jets are. And defensively is one thing with the injuries and the Jamal Adams gone and all that other stuff. I understand that they're going to struggle a little bit. But offensively, I mean, they are just lost. They are, I don't know how many wide receiver screens or little out patterns you can run. It's fine. Eventually, you got to throw the ball down the field. You have rookie quarterbacks throwing the ball down the field.
Right. Well, I mean, Justin Herbert yesterday, for crying out loud, they unleash him in that game against the Chiefs, and I was thinking about Sam Darnold the whole time. I was like, I never saw this from him in like 3 years. Now, he's had some good games, Sam, but they never challenge a defense down the field,
I don't think they have anybody to challenge a defense downfield. That's
still, though, I mean, for crying, I mean, I know Brashad Perriman, he ended up leaving. I know Chris Hogan ended up leaving, and they got their issues at wide receiver. But, I mean, you want to talk about, you made the Stephon Diggs comparison. How about Robbie Anderson? I mean, Robbie Anderson for 2 straight weeks now is just putting up incredible numbers, and he was someone who could challenge defenses down the field. The scariest thing to me was, and this is early in the season, the Jets heard the criticism. The players had to have heard the criticism, and they came into this game the first play and gave up an 80-yard touchdown run. That, to me, shows no pride, no football sense, no preparation. An 80-yard touchdown run after what happened last week? I mean, you want to tell me that you're not good enough to beat a team that's got a better culture than you that went to the Super Bowl despite their injuries? I could give you that. But to come into this game and then watch, I mean, think about the emotion that the 49ers went through yesterday, too. I mean, they were complaining about the turf. We'll talk about that later. But Nick Bosa goes down. He's out for the year. Solomon Thomas on the next play, for crying out loud. And then they rallied around that and were able to not just beat the Jets, like find a way to scrap through and beat the Jets, but destroy them. So that's the scariest thing to me. That shows that they may be, and this is not hyperbole, but they may be easily the worst team in football all year.
I think they are the worst team right now.
Yeah.
Right now, as we sit here and we wake up this morning after that performance, especially given the amount of injuries that the 49ers had, and not just the injuries that took place during the game. They were missing 4 guys coming into the game.
George Kittle, D. Ford, Richard Sherman, Debo Samuel.
Those are all
those guys.
Guys, 4 main guys.
Right, and that's why I picked the Jets actually covering this, because I thought that the 49ers were too banged up, and I thought they'd have some guts. I didn't think they'd win, but I thought they'd have some guts, and they didn't. Not one shred of that. So that is the coach. There's no doubt about it. Now, I don't think that now the Jet fans, that's it for Gase, the pressure's on. I would be just floored if this guy got fired midseason. I'd be totally floored, especially with the way that the owner is enamored with him and the previous relationship with Joe Douglas. So Jet fans probably aren't going to get the Adam Gase firing at week 5, but something has to change, because they might be forced into a corner if this continues to happen in this way, that you just can't live in the NFL like this. You can't do it.
You can't live in the NFL like this. But the only saving grace that I would say with the trade of Jamal Adams and the draft picks coming back, it shows me that the general manager, in this case Joe Douglas, is starting over. He and fans have to understand that. It's his turn now to start over. And he may end up having a huge decision that I think will be pretty easy for him around draft day. If the Jets end up with the number 1 pick, it's going to be really easy. Sam will be out of here, and Trevor Lawrence will be in here.
I just can't believe this.
And that's and for Sam, this is like a watershed year. Now, compare him to what Josh Allen is doing, and how Josh Allen is perceived by his players, by his teammates on the Buffalo Bills. They both were drafted the same year, same way Lamar Jackson is perceived by his teammates and his players. I think that Sam is like in that Mitch Trubisky world right now. I think that Sam is in that Baker Mayfield world right now, where you're just not sure. You just don't know. And you just don't know because it's another system, and he does not have the players around him that some other teams have at wide receiver, at tight. Even, Chris Herndon gets hit in the chest with the ball and he drops it. That catch is made 9 times out of 10 by guys in the end zone all around the NFL. And Herndon's supposed to be this great guy. He's supposed to be this difference maker at tight end, and he's cost them in 2 games. He's cost them with a big fumble that changed momentum against Buffalo, and he cost them yesterday. The ball hit him in the chest in the end zone. He's got to catch. He's got to make the catch. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to: our players making plays. And it's not just Sam. I think Sam is basically being somewhat hung out to dry, and I think Adam Gase is really trying to protect him. He's trying to throw a lot of short passes, get a lot of easy completions, trying to get the ball out of his hand, not believing in his offensive line. But then again, I sit there and I watch what Justin Herbert did yesterday. I watch what Gardner Minshew did yesterday. These are all young quarterbacks, by the way. You see these guys, they come out, even Baker Mayfield and Joe Burrow on Thursday night. Josh Allen yesterday. For God's sake, people are throwing the ball down the field. And I guess Adam Gase feels like he has nobody that can do that. And if he doesn't have anybody that can do that, is that on him, or is that on the way this thing is unfolded before Joe Douglas even got here?
Yeah, still, though, there are guys like Brashad Perriman, while he's healthy or in the game, is someone who can do that.
What's his history? History?
History with injuries you're talking about? Yeah, of course. And that is a problem, without a doubt. The injuries are a major problem, but it's not just about yesterday and getting the ball down the field. I feel like, if you even look back, I don't think Sam Darnold has a completion. I read this going into the game of over 40 yards, I think, in the air in his career. There's some crazy Sam Darnold not getting the ball down the field stat even prior to the Adam Gase regime. It just doesn't happen with him. The times that they've had success, it's been intermediate stuff. It's when he was more accurate than he has been. There's no challenging there. No. But you're right. When you look at the barren cupboard that they have when it comes to offensive weapons, I hated their wide receivers going into the season. Now all of them are hurt. Denzel Mims isn't there. Perriman's not there. Chris Hogan actually looked like he was a football player yesterday. He goes out. Herndon, who everybody was excited about, you mentioned him already. He's been a total bum so far this year. They got nothing. They've got nothing on both sides of the ball. They've got nothing. And yes, it's a rebuild, but If people looked at the Jaguars roster and said that they were tanking for Trevor and they got nothing, and they've come out and actually shown some spirit and shown some competitive fire, if they can do it, then the Jets can do it. But it seems like the Jets are incapable. They don't have that in them for whatever reason.
Yeah, and the thing is, I've played for a number of different coaches, and everybody's a little bit different. And the one thing I will say that I believe that the Jets are really impacted by is that there is little or no energy on their team. There's little or no energy on their team. And the energy,
Jamal Adams, that has a lot to do with Jamal Adams.
But whether it comes from the players like Cam Newton last night or Russell Wilson last night, it usually comes from the quarterback and the head coach. Those are your leaders. Those are the guys that everybody believes in. And, some head coaches are running up and down the sideline. Some coaches are sitting on the sideline looking at the play sheet and not paying attention to the other part of the team, which Adam Gase does, which is really a little bit disconcerting for me. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that he's not totally engaged with everybody. He needs to be. That's part of his effing responsibility. And, I just think that while Jet fans have every right to be disgusted by their performance, because quite honestly, we sat down after our show yesterday, and I look at I got the Jets and the Giants right on the two monitors right next to me, and I'm looking at them. I'm like, what? It's like I couldn't believe my eyes, and it just goes to show you that there's absolutely no energy. Sam is not providing the leadership that he needs to provide. I play the position, so I know this. When Josh Allen, and Phil and I were talking about this yesterday, when Josh Allen walks into that locker room, everybody knows who the leader is. When Russell Wilson walks into that locker room, Aaron Rodgers walks into that locker room, even Matthew Stafford walking into that locker room, even though they've gotten beaten out of the last two games. There are certain guys at that position that walk in that locker room, everybody knows who he is and what he means to the team. And, right now, Sam has got to grow up. This is part of going to hell before you go to heaven, quarterback 101. And he is right now in a malaise along with a very suspect wide receiving team. And you can blame whoever you want. You can blame the previous regime. You can blame this coaching staff. I don't necessarily know that it's fair to blame Joe Douglas right now, although he could have kept Robbie Anderson if he wanted to pay him a little bit more money, but he didn't. So there have been decisions that have definitely hurt Sam's growth. There's no question about that. But Christopher Johnson hired Adam Gase because he wanted Adam Gase to get the best out of Sam Darnold. And I could see why after yesterday's performance, this is about protecting his quarterback. That's what he's doing. He's getting completions and they're not going anywhere. There's no threat down the field. So why would a defense even remotely be worried about a team that doesn't throw the ball down the field, try to throw it down the field? Why not just put 9 guys at the line of scrimmage and say, try to run it, because you can't?
Sure. I mean, it has turned into that team, that joke of a team that even the 49ers, who lost 3/4 of their defensive line, were teeing up on, and the Jets couldn't move the ball one bit yesterday. Just infuriating. Where Nick Mullins on a 3rd and 12 can make a completion, the Jets can't continue a drive on 3rd down. They actually had the stones to go for it.
26 and a 55-yard run.
Oh, my God. Well, that is... it's another one of those things. That and the 80-yard touchdown run to start the game are things that teams that actually are engaged and have some pride in what they're doing when they put the uniform on, that stuff doesn't happen to. That stuff doesn't happen to good teams at all in a season. And both of those things happened to the Jets in the same game.
What's interesting is that, remember when Joe Judge restarted practice 2 months ago before they started the season? He was so disgusted with the Giants that he restarted practice.
Yeah, of course.
Well, yesterday at halftime, he basically restarted the game like he restarted practice. And the Giants showed that in the second half. The Giants showed that they fought back and they were going to play like it meant something. Now, nobody likes losing, and nobody like Joe Judge, who's used to nothing but winning up in New England, likes losing, and he's trying to change a culture. The difference between the two teams is obvious to everybody, that the Giants at least are giving effort and pride and working hard, and it's a no-nonsense kind of approach to things. The Jets seem completely disjointed. from their defensive coordinator saying last week, we were one play away from being a dominant defense against Buffalo, to this week giving up a touchdown run of 80 yards on the first handoff.
Yeah.
And then getting blistered by a backup quarterback. I mean, you could say all you want about schemes and all this other stuff. Ultimately, you're either getting the players to play for you or you're not. And it seems to me like right now, especially yesterday, the Jets went into that game thinking, you know what, we don't have a chance against this team. They're the defending NFC champions. They're a Super Bowl team. They got a great defensive line, and we don't have a chance.
And the sad part is we thought they did, and they'd keep it close, me, you, and Jerry, on Friday saying that, and they didn't even believe it. That's what it seemed like. First play of the game.
This is going to be a long week, man.
Oh, yeah, of course it is. It's going to be really. And then they play the Colts. They go to Indianapolis to play the Colts, who get right after that loss to Jacksonville week 1, and they just stomp on the Vikings at home. So, I mean, it doesn't. Whatever opponent for the Jets, it doesn't matter. They're so bad, it doesn't matter who they're playing. Because yesterday, that was not the defending NFC champions out there. That was the 2018 or 2018 49ers. That's what that was, where they didn't have Nick Bosa. They didn't have Jimmy Garoppolo healthy. I mean, there was just a bunch of guys out there. George Kittle was really good that year. He wasn't even there. It's just so funny. Jordan Reed, who is the guy who's been probably on the IR more than anybody at the tight end position over the last 5 years, was the only one to stay healthy yesterday, and he catches 2 touchdown passes in this game. As far as the Giants go, yes, they did fight. Yes, they were down big in the beginning. Yes, they look better than the Jets. But there's 2 games that I fully believe that they could have won without these Daniel Jones turnovers. And in year 1, you get those excuses. You get those passes. In year 2 now, in back-to-back games, and the fumbling comes back again yesterday, in back-to-back games to start the season, it's now a continuing problem. And you can't, just because they've shown some fight and this team has stunk the last couple of years, just gloss over that any longer. They could have won this game yesterday easily.
I'll tell
and
you
they still
one
had a
thing.
shot at the end to do so. And there was the offensive pass interference, too, on top of that. But they still had a shot to do it in the end. But, I mean, without these turnovers, I mean, even in the Steeler game, same thing. I mean, against the Pittsburgh Steelers, for crying out loud, who had that tough time with a backup quarterback, too, yesterday, by the way. But even in that game, they had a shot to win it without these turnovers. That stuff's got to stop, man. This is really, really troublesome.
Wow, the interceptions, are going to happen, especially with as aggressive. And I love the way that Daniel Jones plays when he throws the ball down the field.
I do, too. That's what makes it even more annoying, though.
He's not afraid to throw the ball down the field. He is not afraid to just let it rip and go after it. Like Sam Darnold has got handcuffs on him, and he's playing like really, really tight. Like it's not a loose look to him at all. It's the opposite with Daniel Jones. He just needs the clock in his head to go a little bit quicker. He held the ball on that fumble just a little bit too long, probably a second too long. He just needs to make a quicker decision, throw it away, or take off and run. But I'm not down on Daniel Jones at all. The kid can still play. The kid is really going to be a good one, and I believe that. And I was saying yesterday, we were talking about Mitch Trubisky. It's the $50 million question. Is he or isn't he the guy for Chicago? And I would tell you the second half tells me he's not the guy. He was grinding in the second half again. He just throwing interceptions and, inaccuracy all over the place. This is the question that the Jets have. It's like if I'm a Giant fan, a Cardinal fan, a Buffalo Bills fan, if I'm I would say even maybe a Charger fan now.
Wow.
I'm a guy, even a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, as few of them there are. I'm excited about watching my team because I got a player that can make plays at quarterback.
Right.
And I think I got a future here, and I do believe. Like the Bengals, like with Joe Burrow. That guy has played 2 games in 1 week of football and already looks like he is light years ahead of guys like Trubisky and Sam Darnold and people like that. I mean, he just looks like he knows what's going on, and he feels like he's got a sense of throwing the ball down the field. Now, he's got better skilled people around him, but his offensive line is as leaky as it comes in the NFL. And they've played some pretty tough defenses, too, to open the season.
Yeah, and that's the biggest issue, I think, with the Jets and their fans, is the fact that the bar is really low. The bar was just to come into this game and compete against the 49ers before we saw all the in-game injuries that they had. Just compete, show up, look like you belong. And they haven't done that. I mean, that's all the Giants have been asking for their team this year for the most part. And they lose Saquon Barkley. He's done for the year. It looks like it's going to be the ACL. They're already bringing in guys like Devontae Freeman. And they do have Dion Lewis there, which is nice for them to have a veteran who could step in and do some things for them yesterday. But, I mean, they rallied around that. They showed some fight. They could have won the game at the end of the game. That's the stuff, and I've used this team as an example now for months. That's the stuff you were starting to see from the Arizona Cardinals in year one with Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, and that has continued in a big way in year two there.
Kyle Murray, forget it. He's like a human joystick, man. He's
amazing.
All over the place, running
It's amazing
everywhere.
to watch.
It's a great
so
athlete.
much fun.
I will say this. In regards to the Giants, they catch a break because it's not, who you play, it's when you play them. And now they're going to play the 49ers, who probably don't want to play at MetLife Stadium, given the fact that they were complaining about the field. But, And by the way, nobody complained about the field in the Monday night game between the Giants and the Steelers. The Jets and the Giants have practiced there. Nobody has complained about the field. Only a player or two of the 49ers did complain about the field. And there was a report last night that, NFL operations is going to look into the field. But I know for a fact that the Jets have not been contacted by anybody from the NFL. But it wouldn't just be the Jets. It would be the Jets and the Giants. Sure. They're the ones who share the stadium. So a couple guys complained because guys got hurt. So that's why they complained. But nobody complained when it came to Pittsburgh and the Giants the Monday night before. But the Giants catch a break. They're going to be playing a team that's probably going to be playing with a backup quarterback, and that is completely decimated. I don't know if George Kittle's going to be back. I doubt that Deebo Samuel's going to be back. It doesn't look like Richard Sherman's going to be back. We know that Nick Bosa's out. We know that Solomon Thomas is out. The Giants are catching the 49ers at the absolute perfect time on a field now that the 49ers are spooked by.
Yeah, it's absolutely lining up perfect, just like I kind of thought it was lining up perfect for the Jets yesterday as well. So we'll see if the Giants can take advantage of the same exact situation.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.